What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Making It podcast with Brady Martin. Today, we are talking to Jack Plotnick. He is an actor. You may have seen him in Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Reno 911. He is one of my acting coaches. I used to go to him a lot for auditions, and I'm excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, you too. So I kind of want to just dive right into it.
All right.
So I know with this has been kind of a recurring theme for some of the other episodes. I was wondering what your process is with auditions versus actual booked acting work, or if there is a difference whatsoever.
Well, I get paid for the acting work and not for the audition. That's the biggest difference. But in order to get the acting work, you got to do the audition. But past that, I'm not sure what you mean by process.
Okay, so as far as so with booked work and auditions, there's usually only a couple hours or a day or 48 hours if you're lucky to send in.
Why do they seem to not know they're even going to audition people for a role till the night before? Like, what? That is so weird to me. If you don't know out there in the world, basically, often actors, we get an audition for even like a series regular role the day before it's due or 2 days before it's due, and you're like, you must have known for months you were making this show. The writer had to write the script, and you've been building the sets. It's a very strange thing. Why they don't give us more time, I have no idea. That's the question for a casting director on your show. Anyway, yeah, you don't get much time. So basically, but the different, in terms of my preparation as an actor, there's really not much difference between how I prepare for an audition and then once I've booked the role, how I prepare to go to set and do it, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, so then, what is that process then if it's pretty similar?
Your audience is mostly actors, right?
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Good. I hope so. Yeah. I just didn't want to bore people because that means I'm going to get real into sort of my approach, my technique, as they say.
No, that's what this podcast is for. So
good. Okay. Well, in terms of acting in a drama, there's only two things I do to prepare to act in a drama, and that's memorize and scene comprehension. And so memorizing is easy. It's annoying, but it's not hard to do it. And I share sort of tricks to doing it, ways that make it easier and less anxiety causing. And then scene comprehension is also really easy. I don't even do the second thing, scene comprehension, until the day of the audition. So basically, until the day of the audition, all I'm doing is memorizing. And when I memorize, I have no interest in how I'm going to perform it. None. I never say the words out loud while memorizing the way I might say them in the performance until I'm doing the performance. And that's a gift you give yourself in a drama audition, because that makes your audition 100% spontaneous by definition. You don't have to pretend you haven't said it this way because you literally haven't. So I memorize in a disinterested, monotone, rhythmic voice.
Okay. Yeah, I like that take on it for sure. Something that we're taught in acting class is like breaking things into like beats and actions, or like having some sort of. I mean, a couple of them.
What?
No, I know. No, I like that you're so different than that,
because I'm going to have comprehension for me has nothing to do with doing that. And the thing is, they may be trying to help you to do scene comprehension with these techniques of, you said, breaking down a scene into beats and actions. But, but the problem is when you verbalize it that way, it becomes very result oriented. You start focusing on the result of the scene instead of just literally understanding what's happening in the scene. But I interrupted you because I wanted to hear the next thing you said, stuff like breaking it down into beats and actions, and then you were going to say something else.
So breaking it down into beats and actions, and but what you're saying basically is that almost all of your focus goes into memorizing the lines, or is it
they're both are super important. You can't do a drama scene without, you could actually, scene comprehension is terrifically important. These are the two things I do, memorizing scene comprehension. But the thing is, scene comprehension is really easy. And other teachers, in order to keep you in their class, they want to make it seem very difficult so that they can teach you lots of different ways. But really what they're doing is getting you to focus on the result of the scene, on how you're going to perform it. And that's, to me, that's not scene comprehension, because acting in a drama has to be totally spontaneous, unplanned, unpremeditated, just like real life. Acting in a drama is a mirror of real life. And so the mistake that actors make when they pick up a script to do scene comprehension is they pick up a script and they go, this is a scene, and then you're fucked. Because as soon as you go, this is a scene, your vulture, I call it, that's your ego, the result-oriented, fear-based part of you starts talking, and it goes, a scene, you're about to do a scene, what should it look like and sound like? What are the actions, beats, and objectives? What thoughts could you pre-plan, and what line readings could you work out? And all of a sudden, what happens is these fear-based concerns, they create a fog over the script, and then you can no longer see what's happening in the script. You can't do healthy scene comprehension that way. So the way I do scene comprehension, or the way I blow that fog of fear away so I can see what's happening in the scene, is I pick up a script and I go, okay, this is really happening to me. So what's happening? And then it's so easy to see what's literally and obviously happening in every moment of the scene. And those are called the circumstances. Then our job as actors is to just put those circumstances in our belly and approach the scene as if it's really happening, like an improv about those being in those circumstances. So that doesn't take long.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to say, yeah, but aren't there beats in a scene? What I'd say is, well, I would never use the word beats. Beats are a bummer. They make me feel pressure. They sound like you're turning it into sort of an English lit homework. Beats are maybe something the writer thinks about, but the healthy way to describe what the teachers might be meaning when they say beats is a scene. Not only do you approach a scene like an improv, but a scene is sort of a series of improvs. And the opening improv might be, I'm exhausted and I'm arriving home from work, expecting my wife has made dinner. And that, maybe someone calls that a beat. I wouldn't call it a beat, because a beat is result-oriented verbiage. I would say I'm going to do an improv about arriving home when I'm really happy to know that my dinner's waiting for me. I'm going to do an improv about that.
Okay. That's a cool way to look at it. That does answer it, though.
Because I think the way you verbalize how you do your craft is incredibly important, because your thoughts create your reality. And with my thoughts, I created a reality where acting is really easy and there's no such thing as failure. But other actors, with the way they think about their craft, they turn it into something very complex and full of ways to fail. So I just want to let everyone know, I took all of my thoughts that create my reality, that acting's easy and there's no way to fail, and I typed them all out. And I put them in my free ebook. Everything I teach, you can read for free in my ebook called New Thoughts for Actors, and it's on my website.
I want to talk to you about that, Jack. So he said jackplotnick.com. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, because I don't teach to make money. I teach as a hobby because I love helping actors. And as an actor, I had to make these discoveries, and I want to share them because I want to share an approach to art that's based in love and not fear, and to free actors from the classes that I feel are result-oriented and not necessarily helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I've always loved that about your approach. The thing that I was going to ask you, because I spend a lot of time working and I have, podcasts and audiobooks going all the time. Jack, will you please turn your book into an Audible book? Please. I like revisit it, but it's hard to have a copy on me at all times. So like if you could do it in your voice as an Audible.
I'll do it tonight.
Really?
Yeah, I really should. It'd be fun to record the book. I've made some videos about some of my different some of my most important points in the book, but I've only made a couple so far. So
I know, and I binged them. I love those videos. But yeah, if you could if you could do the whole thing and put it on.
It is
Audible.
Nice to listen. My favorite self-help guru was Marianne Williamson, and her books are so hard to read, but her lectures are so incredible. And I got so much growth as a human just by constantly listening to her lectures on her approach, because it's just somehow easier to receive it that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely an auditory learner as well. When I see it on paper, it's like for some reason my brain interprets it as like this is law, and there's no freedom in text for me. For some reason, it's so literal. So for hearing it the way the author intended for me is very important. So that's the only reason I ask you to do that.
Okay.
So one thing that this has been a theme for all the guests so far, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what you think should or could be daily habits for an actor to move their career forward, like whether that's self-submitting, like just what do you think the actions
Well,
are?
I think that an actor should do what they love every day, because there's a saying, what you do creates more of it in the universe. And if you want to be an actor on film, put yourself on film every day, or at least every day take steps towards putting yourself on film. And so maybe that means making, short videos. Like, I've worked a ton, and I'm very satisfied with my career, but I still every week put out a video, and I'm doing it for the selfish love of making comedy videos. And when you do that, the universe is watching, and the universe so if the universe is watching you and you're just sitting there waiting for the next audition, it's like not that interested. But when you're doing what you love for the selfish love of doing it, the universe sends you gifts, and it may have nothing to do with the thing you created. It's just a way the universe works. So I have a chapter in my book called building a career, and it has the sort of universal law that I think is most important when it comes to growing your career and what a daily habit should look like. And the law is form meets structure. So in other words, if you're focused on the form of your life, like I'm focusing on getting a series regular, and you're chasing after that form. How do I get a series regular? Do I send out postcards? Should I go to a party and try to meet a series regular producer? Then the jobs seem to retreat form. But if you're focusing on your structure, meaning, okay, I kind of skipped a step in explaining this. Form meets structure means that the form of a building, the Empire State Building, comes to meet the structure of the Empire State Building. So if you build a structure of a big skyscraper with beams and bricks, and then what happens is the form of a skyscraper comes to meet it. Whereas if you build the structure of a teepee, meaning you just quickly throw up 3 logs and lean them against each other, then the form of a teepee comes to meet that. So it is with our careers. When you focus on your structure as an artist, meaning doing your art and thereby growing as an artist, then the form comes to meet structure, meaning the jobs. You become a magnet for jobs. There, that was a much better explanation. I got a little lost there. But so every time an actor acts, you grow as an artist. And I think the worst way to practice your art is in a class, because then what you're saying is, I'll only do my art when there's an authority figure watching me, telling me why I'm doing it wrong or how I could do it better. When you get rid of that authority figure and you just do your art around other people that excite you and inspire you, you grow. There's power in partnership. And every time you make a 15-second comedy video, or every time you do improv or stand up or whatever your particular passion is as an artist, you grow, you get better, and you become a magnet for jobs.
So that kind of leads me to my next question. I love that explanation.
I've booked jobs simply because people saw my funny videos and went, oh my God, I totally forgot about Jack Plotnick. Oh, he's funny. And look at that. He's making stuff. And oh, what he makes is so great. Let's just have him do the part. And that's how I got my big break. I was a no one. No one had heard of me, but I was doing a comedy show every week in New York. And a friend of a friend was a casting person. He happened to be in the audience. He got me my manager and my first job. And so that's how you get breaks, by focusing on your craft.
Yeah.
I interrupted you.
No, that was pretty much that's kind of the first part of the question, I guess. So since you've booked some pretty big things, I was wondering how in your career you found that is it easier to book things that does it kind of snowball, or is it still?
Let me answer that after. Let me throw one more thing into young artists who are wondering about what I was going to say about what's a daily ritual. If you're starting out, or if you're not satisfied with your career, find your community. Your community is going to help you, and they're going to give you the answers to the questions you have. And your community are the people at your level or slightly above who are doing what you want to do, the people that excite you at your level or slightly above. And you want to get involved with what they're doing. You want to ask them for advice, because they're going to be able to give you the answers you're looking for much better than someone like me who already has had my agent for 15 years and has already sort of, if you're a young actor, you want to seek out other young actors because they just got their agent. They've got the best advice how to get one. Okay, so you were saying, does a career sort of snowball?
Yeah, do you find that it snowballs? Or is the next job as hard to book as the last job, or is it as easy to book as the last job? Or
I would definitely say that as your career grows, it does become a little easier, because getting there are steps along the way for an actor that are tough. Getting an agent or getting into a casting office for the first time. But once you have a reel, once you've proven yourself on film, it does get easier. But you always sort of have to start at square one in terms of booking the role. Like I still have to audition, and I don't mind auditioning. I don't want a role if they don't want me, and I don't mind auditioning because it doesn't give me any anxiety to audition. So yeah, but definitely it gets easier.
That's good.
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
Yes.
So I kind of, there's something in there that you did kind of break it down into nuts and bolts. So I kind of wanted to just go back to that. And if somebody is just kind of starting out, what would you say are those first actions? Like, I know getting an agent and a manager can be kind of hard, especially if you don't have any work or a reel or even a headshot. So what would you say are
you don't have a reel? Well, first off, not hard to get a headshot nowadays when, our iPhones take beautiful photos. So get a headshot. As far as a reel goes, if you don't have a reel, make a reel. And when I say that, what I mean is make content. And I hate using that word. My friend, he said, it really should be called art, not content. But, do your art. And the trick to making, like, if we're talking about actors and actresses who want to be film actors, then you got to put yourself on film. And the trick to making content, putting yourself on film, is make it fucking easy. Don't go, I'm going to write the next greatest web series. I'll write all 10 episodes and then try to raise $30,000. You'll never make it. Every actor in Hollywood has a script in the desk that never gets made. Don't be that person. Demand that you're going to film something. If today's Wednesday, I'm filming a short video on this Saturday with a friend at the park. And we have 2 hours to shoot it, 1 hour to edit it, and we'll post it if it's good. If it's not good, we'll throw it away. But you have to give yourself boundaries. You have to say, I'm making it tonight. I'm shooting it now. It has to be under a minute, or it has to be 30 seconds. That's it. For me, a great way to force myself to finally really start making a lot of comedy videos was to start by making Instagram stories, because a story is only 15 seconds. I only had to come up with it. And the great thing was it disappears after 24 hours. So because I knew it was only 15 seconds and it would be gone in 24 hours, I would let go of my need to be perfect and just make something. And the fascinating thing was, almost every story I made, once I saw it, I went, oh, this is great. I turned it into a post. I was like, no, I'm gonna make it a post where it's permanent. But you've got to let go of your need to be perfect. You just got to go, look, I embrace imperfection. People don't want to see something perfect. They love somebody who just makes it. And it's sloppy at times, but it's honest, it's something they were really thinking about or feeling or laughing about. And so give yourself boundaries, make it easy, and demand that you do it right away or you won't do it. And let me tell you something, it's never comfortable. Doing art is never comfortable. So a lot of acting teachers will say, come to my class so I can teach you to be comfortable in the room. Comfortable when you act. You guys, stop that. You're never going to be comfortable. You're not supposed to be. That would be so boring. What you want is to be free of anxiety. And I teach how to do that by shutting up the vulture. And the first 2 chapters of my book are all about that, because it's the most important thing we can do as artists, is to get control of our thoughts, so that that wonderful, exciting uncomfortableness is something we can enjoy, instead of letting your vulture squawk making you feel anxiety. And then the whole thing freaks you out. And you say, I'm a thing called nervous that I don't think even exists. Nervous is just excitement and uncomfortableness mixed with anxiety, because your vulture is saying mean things. So anyway, the trick about making content that I wanted to add is, you're not going to think it's going to be any good. Don't wait to film something until you think, oh, this will be good, because you never will. That's just the dilemma of being an artist. You never think anything's any good. So when I'm making one of my videos, and I love my videos, but when I'm making them, I'm always like, I don't know if this is going to be any good, but I'll just film it. Then while I'm editing it, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to make it, if this is going to be good. And then I'll finish editing it and I'll go, I don't think anyone's going to find this funny. I'll send it to a friend. They'll go, oh my God, Jack, this is so funny. And I go, oh, you're right. Okay. And then I share it. So my point is, don't wait till you're ready, because you never will be. It's just, that's what it is to be an artist.
Yeah, that's a good point. I found like literally the only things that I've like ever made with friends or whatever is, it's like we picked a day, we got a little script together, but it always was pick the day first. And then once you pick the day, then you can actually get it done, because the work seems to like fill in that time in order to get that done.
Yeah. And I never use a script. I have some ideas, but I like to just improvise, because that way when something is spontaneous, unplanned, it's electric. You can't fake spontaneity. So I improvise all my sketches, and then I create them in editing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to talk about higher power and affirmations with you, because I know that's a big part of what you.
I have it's the second chapter of my book. It's how to get control of your thoughts, and they're called actor affirmations. Yeah. They're right there in my, Did
you want to talk about a couple of the main ones, like the daily
I'd love
ones?
to. Well, first off, what you have to understand is that we all have that voice in our head that says you're not good enough, or they're not going to like you, or you have to do well in this audition. And I tell actors, you got to move that voice outside your head and instead see it as a vulture squawking on your shoulder. And by doing that, you just change your whole life, because you finally stopped self-identifying as the negative voice, and you've created the real you, the one who's listening. And now you can say what you need to say to your vulture to let it know, I'm not interested in what you're talking about. Because your vulture is your ego. Everyone has one. Your ego is the half of you that wants you to fail. And it's not saying the truth. It's simply saying what it knows you'll listen to. So you got to let it know, I'm not interested in that. And so some people teach affirmations in a way that I don't really enjoy at all. And that is sort of to walk around going, I'm a beautiful vessel of love. I'm a joyous, rich, successful actor, even if you feel like you're not. And to me, that's not an affirmation, because an affirmation means to affirm something that's true. So I don't think the kind of affirmations where you're sort of lying to yourself really work that well for a lot of people. So the way I teach my actor affirmations is, if your vulture says, you're not going to book this role you're auditioning for, you don't say, yes, I will, because your vulture will just say, no, you won't. Yes, I will. No, you won't. Yes, I will. And you can't even act when you're arguing with a vulture. Yeah. So when your vulture says you're not going to book this job, you say, I release and destroy my need to book the job. And your vulture goes, yeah, but you're not going to, wait, what? I release and destroy look, I want to book the job, because want is great. You should want to book the job, but need is fear-based. We don't get the things we need, because need causes anxiety and pressure. So you say to your vulture, look, I want to book it, but I release and destroy my need to book this job. And you know what? I'm not here to book this job. I'm here to have a relationship with this casting person and show them who I am in the circumstances. And then they'll keep bringing me in until the right role comes. And then what happens? Your vulture is silent. It's like he doesn't want to talk about it, whether he's going to book the job or not. And when your vulture is silent, the pressure to book the job comes off your shoulders, so you can enjoy yourself and you're able to shine your light. And then what happens? You book the job. Because that's why my affirmations work. When you release your need for what you want, that's how to get it.
Have you booked like something big when you still had the anxiety, or is it always like you have to be free?
They can't read your thoughts. So my vulture might have squawked a little during some audition, and that's fine as long as I don't react to it. But It's tricky to book a role when your vulture's squawky, and here's why. What makes us castable is to be acting. But the problem is most actors don't understand what acting is. Look, this is all my opinion, so I don't mean to sound
that's
but
why
in
you're on
my
here.
opinion, I personally define acting as behaving as if it's really happening. And that's fucking easy. It's just called playing pretend. But the problem is that many actors, when they go to an audition, instead of behaving as if it's really happening, they're doing this other thing that they bought in a class, perhaps. And that is they're desperately trying to show what the scene will look like in the finished product. So actors go to an audition to try to show what the scene will look like in the finished product, or they use the techniques they bought to try to show what the scene will look like. But when you go to an audition to show what the scene will look like in the finished product, all it does is make you need to get it word perfect, keep it moving, and make it look like a nice, smooth, polished surface. And that doesn't book work. So I talk about the secret to acting being the 9th take, which we can talk about if you want.
Yeah.
But most importantly, you have to understand that if you're not behaving as if it's really happening, they probably won't bring you back in. And the whole point of your vulture squawking, saying you changed a word, they don't like you, you're not doing a good job, is it's very hard to behave as if it's really happening when your vulture's saying that shit, you know? And so that's why you got to get your vulture to shut up. But yeah, if he squawks a little or she squawks a little, you can still give a great audition. They can't read your thoughts. But anyway, yeah, I could talk about the 9th take. So what I tell actors is you want to approach your audition as if it's the 9th take, as if you've been to set. We've all, you go to set, you do the scene like 8 times, right? And the director at the end of the 8th take, he's like, all right, great job, guys. Thank you so much. I have what I need, and we can move on to the next scene now because we have done, wait a minute, you know what? We've got time to kill. I guess we could do the scene again, but I mean, I don't need this. So I guess this one's for you, whatever you want, action. And then what happens when the editor watches the 9th take? She's always like, finally, something I can use, because the great movies and TV shows are made of lucky accidents caught on film. So you want to approach your audition as if it's the 9th take, where you have no responsibility to the scene. And instead, you're just playing in the circumstances, wanting stuff to surprise you. Because again, when something surprises you in front of the rolling camera, it's like you can't, that's what they need. That's the best part of any scene. So basically, here's what I do. Right before I'm going to go into an audition, I hear the director's voice in my head. And I pretend that I've already done the scene 8 times now, and I'm going to do it again. But the director says this to me in my head. He says this: "Oh my God, Jack, thank you so much for bringing in all those brilliant choices. They were perfect for the scene, and I had them all on film perfectly, and I'm going to use them in the finished product." So, I mean, now that we're done, and I'm never going to look at this next take, I guess you don't have to do any of that brilliant stuff. I guess you could just behave as if it's really happening. Just want to surprise yourself. Oh, Jack, take all the time you want, and you have permission to do it badly. I'm never going to look at this take. And then I do the audition. I don't ever do anything but the 9th take. When I go to a set, my first take is as if it's the 9th take. And why would you do anything but that? Because actors only give themselves permission to behave as if it's really happening when it's the 9th take. So they only act on the 9th take.
I love that. That's like so freeing to hear, because sometimes.
Yeah, but you have to create a reality where there's no such thing as failure in order to trust that you can approach this at the 9th take. And that's why the last chapter of my free book, The 5 Concepts of a Reality Where There's No Such Thing as Failure. So you're willing to do what I call acting, jumping out into darkness and trusting a net will catch you. And the net to catch you is that in acting, there's no such thing as failure.
Yeah, that's man, I love that. That's just,
thank you.
You're a breath of fresh air, honestly.
Thanks.
I always come back to your book. It's one of those things where it's like I don't know, I kind of go find these other things, and then it's like, oh wait, but Jack, like it's like a good cross reference to be like, is this still is this too result oriented, or is this something that I can use that kind of checks out with that framework?
There's very good teachers out there, and you'll know that you should hold on to something they said to you if it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel lighter, energized, excited to act. I always say any teacher that doesn't remind you that acting is easier and more fun than you ever imagined might be a scam artist, because they've got to convince you to keep coming back to them because acting's hard. But nonetheless, any teacher may say something, some beautiful thing that you can hold on to and have it affect your craft in a beautiful way. But I'm not saying there aren't great teachers out there. There definitely are.
So what do you think is go ahead.
But what I want to share is that I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
None of it. Like, I work like crazy. So I guess maybe that's why what I want is actors to just, check back in with the book and remember, oh, wow, it really could be that easy. Why have I been making it more difficult? Because that teacher said I should, and that teacher has never even acted in for instance, sitcom. So why am I doing her 20-step process that makes me feel awful and is actually freezing me up in auditions?
Yeah. I know when I literally just did that last audition, I was like, I was getting a lot of anxiety for some reason. And I was just like, what is literally happening in this scene? Because it was one of those scenes where the location of the scene changes throughout the scene. And it was like one line in each location type of thing. And it was like, okay, now you're talking to this person. Now you're talking to this person. And so I was just like, okay, what is literally happening? And it made it so much easier to just be like, okay, he's doing this. And then he's doing this, and then he's doing this, and then it just, it gave me so much peace.
What I say is scene comprehension is only what's literally obviously happening. And then everything past that, the thoughts we think or the feelings we feel or the way the line comes out or our movements, those are meant to surprise us in the performance and be different every time. But teachers say, oh, no, you should plan all that. And then what? And then sometimes they go plan it all, but then throw it away when you get there. But we all know you can't throw it away. When you've laid out grooves for how you're going to do a scene, you can't throw it away. So that's why acting is so easy. You do your scene comprehension, and then the art of acting is everything past that, receiving it in the performance, because acting is an art we do while we're acting. Not at home, huddled over a piece of paper, making notes and daydreams and thoughts and word substitutions. That's not acting. That's a bunch of preparatory stuff I don't do because I feel it's result oriented and hurts my acting.
Yeah, that's
But we could talk about what was giving you anxiety at the audition. What your vulture was saying, and we could show your audience kind of how it works, how you let go of these. Because again, Brady, your vulture wasn't saying the truth. He was saying what he knew at that time you would still listen to. So what were some of the things your vulture was saying that was causing a feeling of anxiety? Because I want to reiterate, feelings aren't facts. Every feeling is caused by a thought. So if you're feeling anxiety, that means your vulture squawking, your ego, the half of you that wants you to fail. So what was your vulture saying?
It was, well, the character had a Southern accent, which I'm actually from Texas. So sometimes I feel like I'm concealing a bit of an accent, but I still get self-conscious a little bit doing any accent other
Why?
than.
What did your vulture say about the accent?
It's not going to be good enough.
Okay, good. You say, I release and destroy my need to have the accent be good enough. I want it to be good enough, but I release and destroy my need to have the accent be good enough. And then what does your vulture say back? Because your vulture will then move on to a new argument or have something to say. What does he say back?
Well, the next one was probably.
Oh, wait, I want to hear because at your next audition, that when you have an accent, your vulture is going to say your accent isn't good enough. So you're going to say, I release and destroy my accent, my need to have my accent be good enough. And then he's probably going to say something back, does he?
You haven't worked on it though. That type of thing.
He's saying you haven't worked enough on it, to which you would say, you know what? I can't have worked on it more because this is how much I worked on it. So, I forgive myself unconditionally, and I'm going to take it from where I am. So however prepared I am is a fine place to begin this scene because I can't be more prepared. And then what does your vulture say?
The more stuff was about keeping the scene.
So he's done talking about that. See how easy your vulture pushover. 2 things you had to say to him, and he shut up about your accent. So tell me the next thing your vulture was saying at the audition.
How are you going to keep this moving? How are you going to keep the scene moving with all of these?
It's not your job to.
All the literal things that are written in the. There were so many gaps.
that one's very specific to that audition and isn't going to come up very often. But I would just say to my vulture, I release and destroy my need to keep it moving. It's not my job to keep it moving. The writer did that. All I have to do is have faith that each thing is happening and then say the line when it comes, having faith that I'm in those new circumstances each time. But how are you going to keep this moving is your vulture's attempt to get you to think that you're here to show what the scene will look like in the finished product, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And you say, oh no, vulture, I'm sorry. I release and destroy my need to keep it moving because I did that in takes 1 through 8. And this is actually the 9th take. This is the take where the director said, thank you for keeping it moving so well in those other 8 takes. Then now this time you don't have to keep it moving because you have permission to do it badly. Just behave as if it's really happening. It's the 9th take and I'm never even going to look at this take.
Yeah. And then I think it said, let me see. I still kind of get tripped up on lines.
What does your vulture say about lines? There's a million things he could say about lines. He's as smart as you are. What does he say?
You need to know it word perfect.
Okay, I release and destroy my need to know it word perfect. I want to know it word perfect. I memorized it word perfectly, but here's the healthy way to do memorization. You memorize it word perfectly, right? But once you walk into the audition room, you want to say a word perfectly, but you don't need to. That's the healthy balance. As long as you want to say a word perfectly, I mean, really want to, then you're never going to over paraphrase. You're never going to just start spouting a bunch of bullshit because you want to say it word perfectly, but you've got to release your need to because you're allowed to paraphrase at an audition. It's not the goal, but I think we can all admit you're never going to book a job because you said all the words right.
Yeah.
Definitely. But you will lose job after job after job if you put making it word perfect as more important than your selfish enjoyment of playing in the circumstances. Now, the truth is, your brain is a supercomputer when your heart's racing. So when you're acting, your brain remembers words you didn't even know you had memorized, unless your vulture squawking. If your vulture squawking about this needs to be word perfect, what does it do? It puts pressure on your brain, and then your brain can't remember anything. That's when people say, I went blank. No, you didn't. Your vulture was screaming, you're not going to say this right. Put pressure on your brain. But as soon as you say, fuck the words, I release and destroy my need to say it word perfect, I'm allowed to paraphrase, the vulture shuts up, the pressure comes off, and all of a sudden you remember all the words, or at least a ton more than you would have remembered with the thought, you're not going to say this word perfectly. So you see how the affirmations work?
Yeah.
Release your need. That's how you get what you want.
Yeah.
But what I also remind myself is that I hope I forget my next line, because the moment when I'm trying to remember my next line is the best moment of the audition. Do you want me to show your audience that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
This changes. This will change your acting forever. This is the most amazing thing. Pretend this is a script. Here's what actors do when they forget a line. I'm gonna say 2 lines, but pretend I forgot the second one. This is what actors do. They go like this. I can't leave my wife. She needs me, and so do the kids. Well, if instead of panicking and looking down, if you just stayed up and tried to remember the line, it looks like this. This is me forgetting the second line, but I just stay up and try to remember it. It looks like this. I can't leave my wife. She needs me, and so do the kids. Now, that moment when I was going, what the fuck is this line? Looks like I'm thinking, right? You have to have those moments. You won't book work without those moments, but we get rid of those moments because we think in a moment of silence, they can read our mind and know that we're a sham and that we blew it. But the truth is, it's the best moment of your audition, because what could be more real than a human standing in front of another human thinking of what to say? Because every scene you're ever going to do is a scene about a person who doesn't know what they're going to say. But we turn every scene into a scene about a person who knows everything they're going to say and wonder why we didn't book that job. And the reason why you can stay up and take all the time you want to remember your next line is that when you're acting and your heart's beating fast, time speeds up. So what feels like 5 seconds of dead air, really only about a second has gone by. And while you're thinking, what's my line? You have the core knowledge in your belly that, oh, they're projecting fascinating thoughts on me. So next time you're worried about lines, forgive yourself unconditionally, take it from where you are, hope you forget your next line, and release and destroy your need to say word perfect.
I love that. So
but like, guys, I told you, there's only one thing I do, even if they give me a week to prepare, there's only one thing I do until the day of, and that's memorize. So I'm not saying don't memorize. I memorize, but I memorize word perfectly, but I memorize focusing on the meaning of each line. And with the knowledge, I'm focusing on the meaning of each line, because if I forget it, the words perfectly, I at least understand the idea of the line and I could paraphrase that line. But I'm memorizing it word perfectly. And often I say it word perfectly. I just don't need to.
Is there anything that you do when you're memorizing it based on the meaning of the line? Like, is there any specific way that
I
you
just
do
focus
that?
on the meaning of the line. No, don't. It's not a hard thing. It looks like this. If the line, it'll look like this. I'll look at the line on the paper, then I look up and I say it. I want to go to the park with you. Okay. The reason why I'm sort of staring out into space is that I'm just focusing on the literal, obvious meaning of that line. I want to go to the park with you. Okay. I get it. I own that line. Now I move on to the next one and keep doing that and adding more lines. But let go of an idea that there's a thing called memorize. Memorization is a process. You're never going to be memorized. You could always forget a line. It's just about sticking. It's almost as if each line is a Post-it note. And when you memorize, you stick the first line up on the wall and it sticks. You put the second one on the wall, third, fourth, fifth, all the way to the first 12 lines, and you go to bed. The next morning you wake up, 5 of them fell out the wall, but the first 5 lines stuck. That's sort of the process of memorizing. And you don't need to be a thing called fully memorized to audition.
Do you?
Because I find I book some jobs and I'm fully memorized, but I book some jobs where I've had no time to look at it. It's never about that.
It's more about just having
the water you're swimming in. It's
Okay.
the water you're swimming in. Are you behaving as if it's really happening? Are you allowing thoughts and feelings to surprise you? And are you what they're looking for?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This might be a personal thing, but like, and you've booked so much more work than me, and this is not like a competition or anything like that. But like, I find that when I do have a really nice experience in the room or whatever, it's because I was at a level of being like memorized that like I could literally just go through the lines in my head.
No, you have a great experience in the room when your vulture is silent. However, your vulture squawks whenever you don't have the lines perfectly memorized. And so you're unhappy when you go to those auditions where you're worried you haven't put in the time that it takes you to book. But the truth is not that that's not why you're booking. You're booking because you're free of anxiety. Sorry.
No, that
very well memorized, but your vulture was silent, you'd have a fucking great experience and you drive home going, wow, I didn't expect to feel that or think that or say that line like that or do that or add that funny line at the ending where they all laugh. That's the energy that books work. But we're trained to leave an audition going, well, I did it how I planned. I hope they liked it. So what you're saying is, Jack, when I've spent a certain amount of time memorizing it, then my vulture shuts up about lines and I have a great time in the room when I book that job. So I'd say you'll book even more when you get control of your vulture, not when you make sure to spend a week memorizing every audition.
Yeah, that's definitely personal for me. I don't know how many people experience that, but I know that there is a large thing in my head that it's like, oh, you need to work on it this amount of time.
Okay, I used to think that too. And then when I moved to LA, I was booking the jobs I had no time to work on. Because the way I was working on auditions was all about planning it out and taking out all the spontaneity. But when they'd go, you know what, actually, you're more right for this part. Go out in the hallway, look at this for 5 minutes and come back in. Then how could my vulture squawk? They knew I had no time to look at, and I would just go in and just play. And those were the roles I was booking. Now I've learned to prepare for auditions in a healthy way. So I will spend some time, but it just sounds to me like you're listening to your vulture say, because all your vulture wants to do, Brady, is put the scene over there. The scene's over there. How are you going to get there? Because if the scene's over there, your vulture is only going to let you get over there about 1 in 100 times. That's why it's so important to say, I'm going to take it from where I am. However prepared I am is a fine place to do this scene, because you do realize that the actors on the TV series, they've had no time to prepare. They're literally like a new scene in the morning and they're barely memorized. And when you watch them do their series lead Emmy award-winning performance, they're really just trying to remember the lines, which, by the way, looks amazing in a drama. So why are you allowed to do that when you're an actor in a series, but oh no, not when I'm auditioning. No, I can't do that when I'm auditioning. No, approach the audition like you already have the job. I'm not saying not to memorize. I'm just saying it takes me so little time because I'm under no pressure to have spent a certain amount of time, whereby if I don't spend that amount of time, now I'll let my vulture say, you're not prepared.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, you're just like you're doing like I'm trying to like think of things, but you're answering these questions so fully and just nicely that I'm like lost for words at the moment, you know?
Well, hopefully what you feel is lighter. Like you're like, wow,
Yeah.
acting sounds and feels easier now. And that's because of the things I've said that you can say to yourself. You don't need me, but the things I say are things you can say to yourself that will change your reality of acting.
Yeah.
That's why my book is called New Thoughts for Actors, because your thoughts create your reality. And
Yeah.
there are actors who are great, but who torture themselves. If they want to do that, that's fine. But I have worked with some of the greats who are just on set playing, no anxieties, no ideas that it's got to be hard. And they give the most beautiful performances and they enjoyed their art and they enjoy their lives.
I wanted to, so one of my people that I look up to like heavily is Ian McKellen. And I know that you've
Yeah.
worked with him before, and I kind of wanted to just pick your brain on that experience because I don't know if I've ever gone into detail on that
Yeah, well,
before.
Ian McKellen is absolutely one of them. You know, he just basically is just kidding around, having fun. He basically acts like an eighth grader on set and not in an obnoxious way, in a charming way. And you're just like talking, laughing, teasing, action. And he says the words and he's fucking brilliant. And because he knows he can, it's sort of, but I have a chapter in my book called The Trap of Making It Real. There's a lot of young actors, and I think it might be because of who they trained with, who think it has to be a thing called real. And they torture themselves. And honestly, they torture the actors around them. Like I have to like stay in character and all this stuff that makes them miserable, but more importantly, makes the actors around them miserable. And the thing is, acting isn't real. Acting's fake. It's
Yeah.
fake. The definition of acting isn't it's really happening. The definition of acting is I'm going to behave as if it's really happening. But once you realize that I don't have to make it real, and your hands aren't over here trying to earn the right to say these words by making a thing called real, then where are your hands? They're here in front of you, open and ready to receive gifts of interesting thoughts and concepts that could cause feelings based on the circumstances. And then, as I said, they say cut and there's tears going down your face and you're like, wow, whoa. I didn't expect to have that realization in the middle of the scene that this might be the last time that I talk to my girlfriend. I never thought it was real. My words for acting are trust and faith. I trust it's happening. I have faith she's my girlfriend. And to me, anything you're doing in your craft that doesn't sound like trust or faith, you really ought to just get rid of, because it's not helping your acting.
So so I know, like we were just talking about Sir Ian McKellen.
Sir.
Yeah. What? So do you think his thinking is pretty similar to yours, or is he like over prepared, doing the scene, or like how do you think his thought process
I
is with
can't
that?
speak to it because I really didn't know his process, but I can tell you I directed a feature film with some amazing actors and they
Yeah.
all did these beautiful performances. And I know for a fact some of them worked with people before and some of them arrived on set having no idea how they were going to do the scene and one of the actors who gave a beautiful performance got the role the day before because someone dropped
Wow.
out. And I'll never forget what Liv Tyler said to me, and I thought this was so beautiful. She said, Jack, when I go to set, I don't know what's going to happen, but I trust that when the camera rolls, magic happens. I
I
love
love
that.
that.
And the reason why that's true is because when you go to set and the camera rolls, your heart beats faster. Now, when our hearts beat faster, it sends more blood to your brain. Your brain expands. You become more than you are. See, teachers don't want to talk about this fact because it makes acting so easy, but you're not going into an audition alone. You're going into the audition hand in hand with your racing heart that makes you more than you are. I like to say that racing heart, that excitement plugs me into my higher power. And then I feel as though my higher power guides me through the performance. My higher power sends me these fascinating thoughts and images and funny things that come out of my mouth. I'm not doing that. So they don't want to talk about that, but that's the truth.
I love that you talked about higher power because that's kind of been a theme on some of the other episodes. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that specifically? Like, is that something that you carry throughout the day? Is that more or less? I mean, not. I know it's not just when you're acting or whatever, but
No, I mean, I personally have a concept of higher power all the time but if you don't like a spiritual sort of thing going on, and it's not for me, it's not that spiritual, but then you can just say your higher power is your racing heart. Your racing heart, literally, because a basketball player's heart is racing, that's why he can shoot from mid-court and it goes straight through the hoop. It's that racing heart. It sharpens your focus. I mean, you don't have to look at it as a sort of spiritual kind of thing. But essentially, in my book, we are all one. We're all one. We're all part of God. We are all God. You're God. I'm God. I don't really love the word God, but and that's true all day long. So you're not your thoughts. That's why it's so important to disconnect from them. You are the thing hearing the thought, and the thing hearing the thought is pure love. The thought is fear. Your ego is fear. And so, yeah, I know I walk around all day with the knowledge that I have a oneness with all humanity that is absolutely fucking glorious and stunning. And I think it's very important if you're going to do the affirmations, right? Release and destroy my need to impress these people. You can't wait for the audition to do that. You've got to be talking to your vulture whenever he squawks all day, letting him know that you're in charge, so that by the time you get to the audition, he's like, oh, sweet. Because if you're letting your vulture talk shit to you all day long about how you're ugly and your career is no good, then at the audition, when you go, I release and destroy my need to book this job, he's going to be like, fuck off. You've been listening to me all day. So the affirmations are something you say all day whenever your vulture squawks, thereby exercising your true loving voice and weakening your vulture. But I'm not saying to walk around saying them all day. I'm saying when your vulture squawks, make sure to say something back to it. And you'll know your vulture squawked because you'll feel bad. You'll feel bad because any negative thought creates a negative feeling. So when you feel bad, just simply take a moment and say to your vulture, what'd you say? She'll say it more clearly, and you let it know, I'm not interested in that. There's another way to look at this moment, and I release and destroy my need for this thing you say I need. That's how you do it.
Have you thought about making a puppet show with your vulture?
No, I have not, but that's the second thing I'm doing tonight after we hang up.
That's funny. So I wanted to talk to you about more the nuts and bolts of how the industry has changed during COVID and after COVID. So do you find that there's a difference now with, all the streaming services and, so much more access to content and whatnot? Do you find that there's a difference in the audition process and
the only thing I notice is that we're auditioning from home, which I don't mind doing because I don't love memorizing. I no longer get those sort of 14 pages of sides very often, but I know young actors do.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing about auditioning from home. You can make cue cards or use that app that has the words on it. If you don't want to memorize, 8 monologues, memorize the first couple scenes and the rest you just read. Yeah, exactly. It's unfair. There really should be a SAG rule that you can give actors 3 pages of sides. And then if the callback, give them 14 pages, but it's absurd. It is absurd. And I hope that changes.
Like we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast. I'm like, dude, you're casting this project. Why do I have 8 pages the night before?
Yeah.
And it's due at 8 a.m. Like what? Yeah. Why?
So, yeah. But I don't have much to say about the business side because I'm not really that involved with what, the difference in.
No, I meant from an actor's perspective.
Yeah, no, just that we audition from home. Nothing's changed. My view of acting is so simple. It doesn't change. It's not a complex thing that changes.
Do you find it's easier to do your technique or process, or what do you want to call it? You
can call it a process or a technique, but I don't really love the word technique. It makes it sound like math or it sound like something hard and not something easy. But no, nothing's changed about how I approach acting.
But I mean, do you find it easier since you're in your own home, or here's another question. So with, your heart racing and
go ahead, ask the question. But I would just say, I don't know. That's a very interesting question. No, not really. It's not easier because my approach is always easy because all I got to do is get my vulture to shut up and then remember it's the 9th take. But maybe it's nicer because we're at home, we can shoot more takes,
Well, this is the opposite question. So you got the, your vulture squawking and whatnot. but you're plugging into your higher power. You said that when you're in it, you're acting like when you're in the scene. You're acting when you're acting. Your heart's racing. Do you find your heart races less because you're at home? And do
I,
you
you
find?
know, I find that even though maybe my heart is racing less, it doesn't change the fact that the moment I know that that camera's rolling and I'm doing the scene, something happens. I know I'm doing my art, and I become, I don't know that word, but I do feel, even if the heart isn't racing, that I am plugged into the spirit, the magic of acting, the higher power. Or I just don't believe your heart has to be racing like you're running a race. If my heart just beats just a little bit faster because it knows action, I'm doing the scene now, I still have all of the benefits. So I don't, I know some actors are like, oh, how do I act when I'm just bored at home? And you're not bored. You're getting to do your art. You're not bored.
Yeah, that's true.
Opportunity to do your art.
Yeah, I loved your character in Reno 911.
Oh,
That
thank
the
you. I love
fucking gnome king. I haven't seen all the episodes, but he looks like he's always coming in contact with the law. Um, I mean, you've already told me how you prepare for that, but what is it like working on that show?
Well, Reno 911 is a dream to work with because everyone is so nice. And I mean, every actor, but also more importantly, the people who created the show. I actually did the pilot they created that didn't go right before they created Reno 911. And that broke
Oh,
my heart because I love these people and I wanted to get to spend, 8 years with them. But I'll tell you, you get two takes, one sometimes.
hmm.
And it's all improvised. There's no talking about what you're going to say. You know what the setup, but they don't tell me what to say, and I have no idea what I'm gonna say. And you get two takes, and they move on because they really move quick on that show. They've got a
Wow,
lot to shoot. So yeah,
I did
but
not
it's
realize
fun.
that.
It's very exciting, and they're great improvisers, so that makes it easy. If you get stuck, they're gonna be there.
I actually had no idea that they did that type of thing. I mean, I haven't I haven't worked enough to like know all the different shooting styles and stuff like that. But that's really cool to hear about. Is that the same as Always Sunny, or are they more scripted?
Oh, they're totally scripted. Yeah.
That's so weird how things are so different on different shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I worship them. I love that show. So that was a real thrill. I was like, I couldn't believe I was on. And it's funny because I recurred on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I was obsessed with that show, but not till after I was on it, which was
Oh,
so frustrating because I was like, oh God, I spent so much time on that set and I had no appreciation for it at the time. And then of course later I was like, oh my God, I was on Sunnydale. I was in that school, and it was cool.
that's awesome. One of my favorite actors is Matt Bomer. I know you've worked with him. You
Yeah,
directed
he's in
him.
my film. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love Matt. What a
yeah.
kind, sweet guy. And he's wonderful in this role. They all struck the most beautiful tone of of playing it so real and serious, but at the same time really funny. And he's just heartbreakingly funny in this role. Yeah. The movie's called Space Station 76. It's a Sony picture. It's got Patrick Wilson, Liv Tyler, Jerry O'Connell, and you can watch it on any service, like Google Play, iTunes, Amazon. It's there on Stars, I think. Yeah.
So Patrick Wilson, I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Oh, you
Like,
don't? I
no,
mean,
I don't, because he's
both of them. He's great, but I mean, how many franchises in
he's
city?
done so much, but I still feel like he's the
100.
type of guy who could walk into a bar and like people would almost pay him no mind. I mean,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah, and I do think there's still great. Like he's gonna. I think he. Yeah, I don't know. He deserves. I mean, I'm tongue tied because I adore him, and but I know what you mean. He kind of stays out of the public eye. He's not like you don't see him at premieres very often or anything like that. But he looks like a guy.
yeah.
But I
He
mean,
also his acting is so like it's so he just shows up and he does it. You know? Like there's Leo always has that kind of like that explosiveness to it. And I feel like Patrick Wilson is like that, a similar type, but he just does it and just delivers it and just fucking, it is what it is. And I love that about that guy.
yeah.
Let's see. So we talked about acting class briefly. Do you think there are some positives to doing it as far as like having a community or like
Well, I
um
just think, look, your community are the people doing what you love. And doing what you love is not going to class. You love being on film, or you love improv, or you love sketch comedy. So don't meet your community in a sketch comedy class. Meet your community who are out there doing sketch comedy. And you found them because you're going to love the show they do. And you're going to want to stay after and ask them questions. How did you get involved in this theater group? Or how do I start my own sketch comedy group? You know what I mean? Can I audition for your sketch comedy group? Right. So I don't think actors should go to a class to find their community. However, if you want to train, you ought to. I mean, why not? Just know that if a class makes you feel bad, get out of it. And I don't care if you've already paid the $600 fucking initiation fee. Get out, cut your losses, because there's some very abusive acting coaches in LA, but there's some great ones. And
are you willing
ask
to
around.
talk about
I'm
any
not
of
gonna,
the
I can't say which is which, but ask around, because your community knows who are the people. You'll get a feeling. Ask them about the class. What do they do in the class? How's it play out? And then you'll get a feel for if the class, how does the teacher make everyone feel? Because an abusive teacher, you should never go to that class. See, some, especially I would guess some straight guys, they're kind of used to the football coach who told them, you suck, like get in there, work. And that's not an acting teacher. That's not art. That's not art. No. I just don't believe that anything good is going to come out of that. Abuse, any kind of emotional abuse is not going to help an artist. I'm sorry. And if it does, that's because you were raised in that kind of way by your family or by your teacher or whatever. And so you're used to it and you might be able to respond to it. But I think most people don't. Well, and a lot of people, they quit. They go, if this is acting, I don't want to do it. Or I didn't think it was going to make me feel this bad. Or I don't have what it takes because my teacher never lets me perform because she says I'm not ready. This is bullshit.
I always feel like for me, that feeling is like when I start putting up an emotional wall to somebody, that's when I kind of know like I have to protect myself from you.
Yeah. Trust your gut and get out of that class. That's not an appropriate class. If a teacher isn't gentle with your feelings, I mean, the teacher should be honest. The teacher can say, whatever, the teacher can be honest, but you don't abuse someone emotionally or make people feel unsafe or tell them, oh, you'll never get it or whatnot. Or I mean, my God, the things I've heard a lot of horror stories from actors because it's been a hobby of mine to work with them for so long, to coach people. And yeah. So ask around, ask your community. They have the answers.
Yeah, I love that. This is a big question. So just, yeah, I'm just going to dive into it. If you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do sooner? What would you leave out completely? And what would you do more of?
Is this something you ask every guest?
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be, yeah.
Okay. Say it
I got a
again.
couple. Yeah, it's a
What would you say
three-parter.
to me?
Yeah. If you could go back and do your whole career over again, what would you do sooner? What would you leave out completely? And what would you do more of?
Oh, geez. I mean, okay. Well, first off, I mean, I love my career and I'm so happy with how it all went. But what would I do sooner? Probably well, gosh. I mean, I started doing comedy. I had a comedy show running in New York City when I was only like 23, but because I was going to say maybe I wish I had done more live performing. But I did do it. But I think kind of in my early 30s, I sort of stopped. I stopped believing that I had what it take to sort of be in front of a live audience just by myself, because I was doing stand-up and I didn't love it and I just sort of gave up. But anyway, what else? What would I have done sooner? Wow. That's a fascinating question. And then you said the second one was what?
What would you leave out completely? Or do less of?
Oh, well, I mean, do less of. Well, definitely less of, oh gosh, it took me till I was like 30 to really understand drama acting. And I have a chapter on it. And so we don't have to go in depth at all, but I'll just say you can't muscle scenes. You can't make choices in a drama. And it took me a while to figure that out. So I was good at comedy where you can make choices and muscle moments. It's great. You can't book a sitcom if you're not doing those things. But it took me a while to learn drama. And I feel like I missed out on some really great opportunities in my 20s because I didn't understand that in a drama, you can't make choices, because just like real life, in real life, we don't make choices, choices happen to us. So that's my rule with drama. Just like real life, don't make choices, allow choices to happen to you based on the circumstances. So I wish I'd gotten that sooner. And then the last one was what?
What would you do even more of? Just blow it up 10x.
Um, I think I did a feature film. I did my Broadway show, and then I kept trying to go through the sort of system to make my next project, a horror film, a TV pilot. I pitched several shows through the real system, and gosh, it was like you have so little control because the executives can say, no, that's not what we're looking for. And then you have nothing, even for all that work you put in. So I wish I had continued, like I did with my movie and my Broadway musical. I wish I had continued just making my dream project. And the problem was at the time, my dream projects were things I couldn't afford to make on my own. I needed a producer. I needed a production company, a studio. And so I guess something I kind of wish I had let go of those projects sooner and moved on to something that I had more control of and could have just made on my own or have raised the money myself.
I like those.
Thanks.
How was the pandemic for you? That's a personal question, but why not?
Sad and hard, and because it was painful the first month, very painful, because I knew theater was going to stop, and I'd see all these people, all these kids graduating from theater school, and they could just like literally there was nothing they could do with their lives. And that made me really sad because I also knew how bad it was going to get. I mean, if you were paying attention, you knew, even though Trump was saying, oh, it's going to pass in 3 months. So the beginning was real hard. And then it was actually, there were some things about it really lovely, getting to spend that kind of time with myself. And so I had a lot of fun with myself, but also with my pod. You know, I had a few people I'd go see. So hang out on the beach because there was a lot of wind. So it was okay. And luckily no one I knew died or got really sick. How was yours?
It was really bad and really good at the same time. I produced
Yeah.
2 little films, but I think I don't know. I gained some weight over it. I didn't like that very much. Um,
I had to cut my diet in half because I was like, oh my God, I'm gaining weight because I'm not doing anything.
yeah, and then I was just working, and I kind of got in that cycle of just like the 9 to 5 grind, and I didn't. I don't know. It wasn't very soul fulfilling. Like I felt like I'd kind of just gotten my shit all together right before the pandemic started. Like I was
Me
like, I'm
too.
doing it, and
I felt the same thing.
I shot a scene, like I was like, I'm gonna produce my own shit now. I literally shot a scene the week before it happened, and I was like, this is the first of many. I'm gonna be doing this like every weekend. And
Well, you know, I have a green screen and I shot during the whole pandemic, and I love the content, the art I made. So I hope you'll let go of that and say I can shoot every week. I just have to let go of how I thought I had to do it.
yeah, yeah, and that so I mean that's something I'm in the process of working on
Good,
mentally,
good.
and yeah, speaking for the past, it just was not. Um, it wasn't very long term beneficial. It didn't feel like, but I do feel like I got a lot of soul searching done, and I got my priorities straight during the pandemic. So some good things came out of it.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Are you producing anything right now? I would love another movie.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, I'm working on it because my Broadway musical, Disaster. It's a 1970s disaster movie musical with all hit songs from the 70s. And right now we're about to go out and pitch it with a fantastic production company, an award-winning production company, and we're going to be pitching it as a eight-part limited series.
Do you I feel like this is like a big reach. I feel like Ryan Murphy would send that through the moon.
Well, we would love to pitch it. So if anybody knows Ryan Murphy, we would like to meet him for 10 minutes.
I hope if that happens through this podcast, please let me know.
Got it. I'll buy you a coffee.
Yeah.
This has really been so extraordinary. I've just absolutely loved doing this and really getting into all this delicious acting talk. It's just really fun.
Yeah, I'm glad I could actually talk to you as an individual, because I know with your classes and stuff, you're speaking to large groups and whatnot, and sometimes it's just nice to have a personal touch to all of this.
Yeah, I love it because in class, people are doing scenes. And so I don't get to like really get into I used to do those monthly charity lectures where I would spend 3 hours and just talk theory. And I just couldn't really figure out how to get them started again on the internet. But maybe there's a way, because this has been really, really, it's a great reminder that how good it feels to just talk about acting.
Yeah, I love that. That's why I wanted to start this podcast. Do you know why I started this podcast, actually? Because my fiance is tired of hearing it. I'm like, oh yeah, I learned this thing, and like I learned this cool nugget of information. And she was like, oh, cool, that's great. And I'm like, you don't care. And that's fine. But yeah, so I was like, I need to talk to.
Doing it. I think it's fantastic, and I think you're going to help a lot of people, and it's and you're really good at it. So I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm trying to learn how to talk to different types of people, because they're very different styles of communication, and so I'm trying to learn how to adapt and still make the thing, entertaining for those watching. Here's a question. I don't know. So what's more important than acting in your life?
Oh, well, I mean, loving my life, appreciating my life, and loving the people in my life, or treating them with love, and also helping people. I think that's very, very important. And because I'm an actor, I help people through acting, whether I'm coaching them and sort of teaching them how to learn to love and control their thoughts through acting, or my art is my comedy sketches I'm constantly making. And hopefully that's when people enjoy my comedy sketches, they pick up the vibe, which is, hey, just like pick up a camera and shine your light and be silly, and nothing's that serious. And so, yeah, those are the things that could be as important or more important. Yeah.
Yeah, you have this freedom about you that is honestly rarely seen on screen, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I love this idea that when we're doing what we love, we're kind of angels in disguise, reminding people the nature of love, and that they could do what they love.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions. I feel like
we covered it all.
Yeah, I think that's about it. But let me look through my list and just see if I left anything out. I think that's all the questions I had for you.
Well, Brady, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad that you're taking joyful risks, because the universe always pays off to a joyful risk. And get back to making, like that scene that you were like, I love this. Let's do it. Tell yourself I'm doing it this weekend, and it's going to have no preparation. I'm just going to do it. And if it's no good, I can throw it away.
Yeah. Actually, I already have it lined up. So I am hoping in a band. So there's like these big things that, like, sometimes when I talk about something, it puts me on the line to do it. But there's the things with like art and making my scenes or whatever that, like, I would much rather do it so I don't feel like I've already accomplished that thing. I don't know if you identify with this at all, but like sometimes when I talk about something, and like the act of talking about it makes it feel like I already completed the task. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And so some of these things that are like the bigger things where it's like, oh, I'm going to make this thing, or I'm going to produce this. I find it better to like actually do it and then be able to say I did it, as opposed to like getting the satisfaction of talking about it.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure you're doing it.
Yeah. So I think that wraps it up. Do you have anything that you wanted to plug?
Oh, no, just that you can read my free ebook at my website, which is my name, Jack Plotnick, jackplotnick.com. and you just click ebook, and everything I teach is in there. And if you want, check out the movie. It's a sci-fi sort of dramedy, a sort of sad, funny, dark comedic movie that takes place in the future as we had imagined it in the 1970s. So it takes place on a spaceship, and Patrick Wilson is a closeted gay captain, and Matt Bomer is a mechanic who had his hand shot off. And anyway, it's a lot of fun if you like that sort of thing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Your Instagram is Jack Plotnick. Do you want people to follow you on Instagram?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. If you want to see my comedy shorts, go to either my YouTube channel, which is just my name, or my Instagram, which again is at Jack Plotnick, and all of my comedy videos are there. In particular, the videos I made during quarantine are these Disney parodies where I put myself into old episodes of The Wonderful World of Color, which was Walt Disney's TV show, and they really took off, and I'm very proud of them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Say goodbye to Jack, and we will see you, or you will hear us next time. Bye.
Bye.